10 money mistakes to avoid that keeps you poor. When you're starting out, you may make some less than stellar decisions regarding your finances. But it's important to keep in mind that the choices you make today and the habits you form now can affect the rest of your financial life. If you think your money problems stem from a lack of money, think again. Good financial stewardship is about exercising good habits and avoiding bad habits, which will keep you poor. Did you know that Quinn, once the richest man in Ireland, made bad investments and filed for bankruptcy just 3 years later? Watch this video to the end to avoid the mistakes he made. Also, in the comments section below, please share with us some of the worst financial decisions you've ever made. Now, these are the 10 money mistakes to avoid unless you want to remain poor forever. Number 1. Frivolous spending. Great fortunes are often lost $1 at a time. It may not seem like a big deal when you pick up that double mocha cappuccino or have dinner out or order that pay-per-view movie, but every little item adds up. Just $25 per week spent on dining out costs you $1,300 per year, which could go towards an extra credit card or auto payment or several extra payments. If you're enduring financial hardship, avoiding this mistake really matters. After all, if you're only a few dollars away from foreclosure or bankruptcy, every dollar will count more than ever. Number 2. Spending first, then saving what's left. Among the famous investors, Warren Buffett, the American business magnate, is synonymous with successful investing. One of Buffett's most famous personal finance quotes is, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." It basically means that you should always reserve your savings out of your earnings, and only from the balance that is left should you plan your expenses. Savings at the right time and age will help you have enough funds during your retirement, ensuring that you continue maintaining your lifestyle. The earlier you learn to save, the better it is for your future. However, don't just save. Investing what you save is also a habit that will ensure a bright future. This could be deemed to be the first step of financial planning. New expenses keep popping up. By saving first before spending, one always finds a way to make do with the little that remains. Put your savings aside first, then spend what is left. Number 3. Getting behind on your payments. When you fall behind on your house or car payments, you can create a cycle that is hard to break. You'll end up paying late fees or other charges each time you fall behind. It may also damage your credit score, which can affect your finances in the future. The first thing you need to do is to catch up on your late payments and then address any spending, budgeting, or income issues that have caused you to fall behind. Then work to stick to your budget so this doesn't happen again. If you realize that there's simply not enough money in your budget to satisfy even the minimum payments on your debts, ask your card issuer to recommend a credit counseling service that can set up a debt management plan. Number 4. Living paycheck to paycheck. In June 2021, the U.S. household personal savings rate was 9.4%. Many households live paycheck to paycheck, and an unforeseen problem can quickly become a disaster if you're not prepared. The cumulative result of overspending puts people in a precarious position, one in which they need every dime they earn, and one missed paycheck would be disastrous. This is not the position you want to find yourself in when an economic recession hits. If this happens, you'll have very few options. Many financial planners will tell you to keep 3 months' worth of expenses in an account where you can access it quickly. Loss of employment or changes in the economy could drain your savings and place you in a cycle of debt paying. A 3-month buffer could be the difference between keeping or losing your house. Number 5. Staying at a dead-end job. Another big financial mistake is choosing to stay at a dead-end job. This can hurt you financially because it doesn't give you room for advancement or to increase your earnings. While you may take a job as a stepping stone or because you're desperate for work, you need to plan to move on to a better job. The biggest reason a person will stay in a dead-end job is fear of the unknown. In other words, the devil you know is better than the one you don't. Nobody wants to risk trading one lousy job for a possibly worse one. But are you staying at your dead-end job just because it's familiar? You need to determine when the time is right to find a new job, as well as the skills that you'll need to find a job better suited to your interests. Begin the process before you're ready to leave your job. That way, you're prepared when the time comes. If you already believe you have a dead-end job, it's just a matter of time before you'll feel burned out and stagnant. Before this happens, you'll know when it's time for you to move on. Change is necessary. When you're ready, the leap will be more comfortable than you expect. Pay attention to yourself. Trust your own judgment. If something tells you this new opportunity is right, it probably is. Listen to your gut. Number 6. Paying off debt with savings. You may be thinking that if your debt is costing 19% and your retirement account is making 7%, swapping the retirement for the debt means you'll be pocketing the difference. But it's not that simple. In addition to losing the power of compounding, it's very hard to pay back those retirement funds, and you could be hit with hefty fees. With the right mindset, borrowing from your retirement account can be a viable option, but even the most disciplined planners have difficulty placing money aside to rebuild their accounts. When the debt gets paid off, the urgency to pay it back usually disappears. It will be very tempting to continue spending at the same pace, which means you could go back into debt again. If you're going to pay off debt with savings, you have to live like you still have a debt to pay to your retirement fund. Number 7. Ignoring insurance. Not carrying the right insurance in the proper amount is a huge financial risk. It's a financial mistake that must be avoided. On the other hand, remember not to overinsure. Here's a simple thumb rule. Insure only what you can't afford to lose. That means having enough insurance on big-ticket items like your vehicles and homes. Not carrying medical insurance is a money mistake to avoid. Healthcare services can be very expensive, so it's wise to buy a good amount of medical insurance. Number 8. Keeping money within easy reach. Saving money and putting personal finance tips into practice can be challenging. Tucking away money for an emergency fund, much less a down payment on a house, retirement, or a child's college tuition, can take years of steady saving and a considerable amount of discipline. Of course, barring catastrophe, once you establish those emergency savings and develop positive spending and savings habits, staying on top of your finances gets a whole lot easier. Once you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck and have money tucked away to cover a medical emergency, a job loss, or a vacation, you've reached a state of financial stability. But that doesn't mean you can just stop thinking about where your money is going. It turns out it's possible to keep too much money in the bank, and tucking all of your savings there can actually hurt your long-term financial goals. Unless you plan to spend money in the short term, don't keep it within easy reach. Don't walk with tens of thousands in your pocket when your daily budget is only a few hundred. So doing promotes impulse buying. If you don't plan to spend money in the short term, just bank it, preferably fixed banking. Number 9. Spending on things you can do without. I can't really afford this, but I love it. I really shouldn't have bought that, but I needed a pick-me-up. Is that what a spending hangover feels like? Sounds familiar? It turns out the majority of us, 64%, regret our spending on short-term pleasures, including food, clothing, new cars, tech gadgets, and vacations, according to studies. Specifically, we wish we'd managed our spending better so that we could have put more money away for retirement. With all of that rearview mirror research, the question is, why don't we just stop? The answer, unfortunately, is complicated. It comes down to a failure to delay gratification and an inclination towards impulsivity, which occurs in all humans, but particularly and ironically among those whose budgets are already stretched thin. People who live on tight budgets will grasp at any pleasure they can find in the hope of securing something for themselves in an unkind world. Moreover, although you'd think feeling somewhat desperate financially would make people hoard cash, the reaction is often the opposite. With a greater desperation comes a desire to take greater risks, and a lottery ticket is a greater risk than a savings account. Number 10. Not having a plan. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, is among the many wise quotes attributed to Benjamin Franklin. Unfortunately, it appears that most people are not taking Franklin's advice when it comes to their finances. The main reasons cited by those who don't have a financial plan are that they don't have enough money or time to justify creating one, and that the process of doing so is too complicated. There are a number of potential benefits to taking the time to create a written financial plan. For example, having a financial plan can increase your financial confidence, guide your risk tolerance, give you greater financial peace of mind, help you create a budget, and lead to better and long-term financial habits. Assessing your level of risk tolerance is a key component to creating a financial plan. This will dictate how aggressive you are with your asset allocation. For example, is your portfolio heavily weighted towards riskier stocks and stock mutual funds, or safer bonds and cash equivalents? If you don't have a written financial plan, your asset allocation might end up riskier or more conservative than you want it to be. A written financial plan can serve as a blueprint for every aspect of your financial life, helping you stay focused on your big picture strategy. This can help you avoid jumping into and out of different investments and strategies based on the latest investment. If you wish to be successful, avoid these money mistakes. Don't be the next Sean Quinn. Quinn acquired a great deal of success through his investments in industries such as plastic, glass, and hotels. He also held a 25% stake in Anglo-Irish Bank, which had to be bailed out by taxpayers during the 2008 financial crisis. Once considered to be the richest man in Ireland, Quinn lost a majority of his $2.8 billion fortune. To steer yourself away from the dangers of overspending and related money problems, start by monitoring the little expenses that add up quickly. Then move on to watching the big expenses. Think carefully before adding new debts to your list of payments. And keep in mind that being able to make a payment isn't the same as being able to afford the purchase. Finally, make saving some of what you earn a monthly priority, along with spending time developing a sound financial plan.